Then I took a smidge and applied it down there.
This one's wife. Is Harry finally breaking free? Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. This one's wife has been doing certain things without this one. This one has been doing certain things without this one's wife. And naturally, that has led to speculation that there's trouble in paradise. Now, I could tell you that there's trouble in paradise without actually having to see anything of what they've been doing, because simple knowledge of the narcissistic dynamic confirms that to be the case. Although there are relationships between a narcissist and their victim, which last for decades, and leads certain people to form the view that it must be a successful partnership, that it must be a happy union. It is simply the case there is never a happy relationship that involves the narcissist. Although the narcissist will invariably get what they want, the narcissist doesn't do happiness. It's power that the narcissist feels as a consequence of the receipt of fuel and the nullification of threats to control. The victim has fleeting moments of happiness, plenty of them during the golden period, and then they're in short supply thereafter as they enter the sustained devaluation where they're the intimate partner primary source, or in instances where they're a secondary source, they may feel somewhat miserable as they don't get to see the narcissist as often as they would like. The fact is that in the dynamic between Prince Harry, the Prince of Pink Pancakes, and this one's wife, the Spider, it is not a happy union, for she is a narcissist that has ensnared him, and he is the intimate partner primary source, which means, as night follows day, the sun always rises in the east, and we're all going to die at some point. Memento mori. That this one's wife devalues Harry, and he's in the sustained devaluation, which means that she's not happy with him because he's viewed as a treacherous appliance, and he's not happy because he's being abused. Thus, in the circumstances, I can tell you that it is not a happy union between these two individuals because one is a narcissist and one is the victim of the narcissist in the intimate partner primary source dynamic. As I've explained to you before, there are potentially three outcomes. She'll disengage from him if there's one of the 5 disengagement triggers activated. He will escape from her, or neither of those things happen, and the roller coaster ride continues until one of them dies. Might it be that Harry is finally breaking free from her? Often, in such circumstances, there's no guillotine moment that all of a sudden the individual ups and leaves, but rather they have to gird their loins, make preparations, consider the steps that they have to take to get away, that it's not entirely straightforward. There are considerations such as a divorce to activate, children, what might happen to them, finances to sort out, a place to go and live, and such forth, telling people about what has happened. And thus it isn't the case, particularly with a married intimate partner primary source, that they necessarily up and leave in that instance. It can happen in stages. But might it be the case that the distance that has clearly occurred both emotionally, intimately, and geographically between this one's wife and Harry is indicative of the fact that he might be breaking free? Well, an Australian publication suggests that there may well be problems. The article states, "Not since before their engagement have the Duke and Duchess of Sussex spent so much time apart." Now, pausing there, ordinarily the narcissist loves to monopolize the primary victim's time. Why? Well, that makes it easy to control that person. If you're with them all of the time, you're able to control them, both benign and malign, adjusting the manipulations. By being with them all the time, there is a steady supply of very potent fuel. It allows access to those all-important character traits and residual benefits also. Thus, the narcissist monopolizes the time of the individual to begin with to bring them under control, to keep them under control, and continue to feast on the goodies that are supplied by them. And those of you that have been ensnared by a narcissist will recall in those what you thought were halcyon days, whereby you wanted to spend so much time together and the narcissist was happy to accommodate that because it served the narcissist's needs. Accordingly, where the narcissist and that primary victim are not spending time together, it's potentially problematic. If the intimate partner primary source is the one that is spending time away from the narcissist, this threatens the narcissist's control, and steps may be done to try and prevent that by way of a preventative hoover, dropping the narc bomb, or repeatedly hoovering the individual, trying to get them to come back during the period of separation. In other instances, it might be sanctioned by the narcissist as part of their devaluing behavior, where in effect they allow that individual to go and thus impose an absent-silent treatment on them because the narcissist is focused elsewhere. The fact that this one's wife and this one are now spending so much time apart naturally raises questions as to what that could mean. Is it simply a separation of professional obligations? Or does it mean something else altogether? Is it the case that Harry's finally breaking free? The article continues by explaining that after a tense-looking appearance at Tyler Perry's birthday party on the 14th of September, Prince Harry escaped Monty Shitshow for a hiking trip with pals to celebrate his own milestone 40th the following day, and he has not been pictured with this one's wife since. Now, that's not to say that there's been complete radio silence between the two of them. Most likely, this one's wife has been hoovering him by text message and telephone. She does that in order to maintain control over him and draw fuel from him. The article continues by explaining even more shocking was the fact he failed to mention his wife in his birthday thank you message. And when he arrived without this one's wife, who was reportedly sick at Kevin Costner's fundraiser a week later, see parts pass him, speculation reached fever pitch that the couple's marriage had hit the rocks. This has not been a good year for them, an insider says. Everything they touch has gone wrong, and it's reached boiling point. That press she got about being a dictator in high heels and yelling at florists would have been the last straw for anyone. But what's put things in perspective for Harry this past year has been all the health shocks coming out of the palace. Almost overnight, his and this one's wife's concerns seemed frivolous and irrational. Well, they might do to Harry, but they won't do to this one's wife because this is a narcissist. She is all that matters. I also don't think it's a coincidence that getting his inheritance has given him the courage to really step up, and you can see how happy he is. It's like the old Prince Harry is back. The smile is reaching his eyes for the first time in years. From visiting a tattoo parlor in New York to having lunch with Princess Senate Seizio of Lesotho, there's no doubt Harry seemed relaxed about flying solo. He even dared to go in for a hug on stage with his old party pal, British TV presenter Gabby Roslin, at the Wellchild Awards in London. He looked so happy to be there, reports a palace insider. Clearly, Harry has turned 40 and is making big steps towards reclaiming his independence. It's all everyone can talk about back home in London. He looks like his old self again, and it confirms what we've all been worried about, that he's been miserable as hell in California. Now, you can make your own mind up about the legitimacy and veracity of what's being said here, but it does fit with the dynamic that takes place between a narcissist and the victim. He will be miserable as hell as a consequence of the devaluing experience, and the fact that he's spending time away from his abuser, being able to do the things that he enjoys, without someone prodding him, without somebody interrupting his handshake, without somebody whining in his ear, without somebody hogging the limelight, without somebody making him feel like the spare, means he's bound to feel happier. Meanwhile, the article explains this one's wife also flew solo last week, stepping out for an LA Children's Hospital fundraiser in an old Carolina Herrera dress she once wore during more carefree times with Harry. This one's wife's not going to sit at home and be seen as some kind of abandoned wife, says the insider. Well, naturally she's not. Her narcissism won't let that happen. She knows she needs to let him do his thing. Well, does she? Is it a case that she knows she needs to let him do that thing, his own thing, or is it the case that Harry is flexing his independence and is actually causing a massive problem for this one's wife? Is it that he's wounding her with his protracted absence, and she is fighting to assert control over him, but isn't able to lure him back with a hoover, and instead has to stay in a position of withdrawal, cursing him, criticising him, and Harry, having had enough of being treated in such a manner, basically thinks, fuck you, I don't care. All of a sudden he's found the courage to enjoy himself away from her. Might it be the case that it is Harry finally realising that life is a lot sweeter without someone grabbing the limelight, without someone relegating him to being the spare in the marriage, without someone repeatedly prodding him in the back, grabbing his hand, dictating what he ought to do, complaining and whining and rattling his cage, that he realises this is like a breath of fresh air now that I'm actually away from her, that he starts to realise, you know what, I feel more like my old self, and actually I can now see that she is the problem. Do you agree that what we've witnessed here with this protracted period of being apart is Harry now starting to break free, him waking up and realising what's going on? Is he now starting to throw off the shackles of his ensnarement and causing a problem for his handler? Or do you think it's just simply the way that the diaries have fallen, and that whilst he's enjoying himself, he will soon be sucked back and under her control? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.